If you'd like to design your business lifestyle, actually choose the clients you want to work with, how you want to work, where and when you actually do the work, then you're going to want to watch this episode. Welcome to Your Consulting Business Podcast. My name is Russell Pearson, and this is episode number 55. Today on the episode, we're going to be talking about designing your ideal business lifestyle. And I know I said in the intro about watching, but you might be listening to the podcast. So I say watching because we do have the YouTube video, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'd love you to subscribe to get more episodes just like this. But if you are listening on the audio podcast, no matter what platform you're on, I'd love you to hit a review and let us know how we're going as a show. But today I want to talk about how to design that, and not only just how to design the business, the consulting business that gives you what you want in a lifestyle, but also how to become the select consultant and what that is and what that means. When I'm speaking to consultants, whether they're just starting out new, they're maybe coming out of a corporate role or out of some form of service business, and they're actually starting their consultancy, they are often full of confidence. They're ready to go. They've got expertise. They know that they're valuable, and they take the step out of the nest, so to speak, and they take that fall that you see the birds take when they actually leave the nest for the first time. Now, the fall I'm talking about is the realization that they're actually having to wear probably 7, 8, even more hats in the running of their business, which is something that they may not have ever had to do before. Not only are they actually doing the work of the consultant, but they're also now wearing the hat of the director. They're wearing the hat of the marketer and the salesperson. If they're looking to have a business that actually has other partners or other employees with them, then they're actually going to have to be the HR manager and the recruitment manager. There are so many different roles within an organization, not putting even finance, research and development, all these other things that you would potentially get within a larger organization that you now need to bring to your practice. But that doesn't mean that your business needs to become overwhelming. It doesn't mean that your practice needs to get out of hand. What it means is that you now have the opportunity, if not the responsibility, to actually design the business around what you want. It's a fantastic opportunity because when you decide who you want to work with, you can also actually decide by choosing that type of client what sort of work you will be doing, and at the end of the day, how that work will be delivered. Now, there are all sorts of details we're going to get into in general, but let's go back to the nest. They fall out of the nest, they realize, oh my God, I've got all these different things I've got to run, and over time, there is this learning curve on becoming more confident in the actual running of the business, closing of the clients, not just getting them from referrals, and over time, you build up that experience to become the business owner and the consultant at the same time. But interestingly enough, when those people coming out of a service environment, they've already sort of got that. They've already got the experience of running their own business. They're now moving to a space where they're having to learn to be the consultant. So whether you're a consultant who's learning business or whether you're a business owner who's learning consulting, there is still going to be a learning curve, which means that there's a lot of stuff to do at the start. Now, one of the things that makes it harder to do all the stuff is just taking what comes. Opportunity starts coming into a business, and often for the person who's just fallen out of the nest or has got a lot going on, they go, oh, thank goodness I've now got these opportunities coming through the door, and they'll take pretty much whatever's referred to them. Now, the opportunity for you is to not get stuck into this just taking handouts, but actually designing what is the sort of work that you want to be getting, how do you want to be getting it, and then obviously how do you want to be delivering it on the other end. And now that's the role of what I call the select consultant. The consultant who selects the way they actually go about working, they select the clientele that they work with, and they select the path that they actually will take people through, rather than relying on referrals alone. Now, referrals are fantastic. It's great to get referrals. They sort of, in some ways, they can be a representation that you're doing great work, but it also can just be a representation that you know a few people. But what's even better than referrals is actually having a system that you've selected to put into your business that generates not just income, not just clients, but consistent income and clients. And really, that is the gap. That's the difference between having a business that is run really by the outside world, by referrals. People hand you a client when they believe the time is right, to actually having choice to be able to select what's happening inside the business when you want it. And so there's all sorts of things that get in the way of people doing that. Usually, though, it's because they haven't proactively selected what they want in their business. They're just taking what comes. And so what are the symptoms of that? There are all sorts of things that should show up that means that you're not being selective enough in the work that you're doing. Now, one of those is the coffee conversation. You'll find yourself having coffee with probably a whole bunch of people over the weeks, and realize that you're walking away from these conversations and you do not have a sale. Sometimes you'll even come out of these conversations and go, like that was kind of nice, but I don't really know why I was there. These are coffee conversations, and they tend to happen a lot when there's no real intention behind your sales process. And there are all sorts of ways to get over that as well. One of the other things that actually happens that proves that you're not actually a select consultant yet is that you have people ghosting you. You might send a proposal to someone and they sort of disappear. That also shows that there's no specific process and that you are actually in their buying process rather than your sales process. You haven't been selective in the way that you've gone about engaging that client, and they've asked you to send them a proposal and you've said okay. Now, in some cases, that might be something you've selected to do, right? But it is, I can tell you with all experience and the many clients that we work with in the Forge, it is certainly not the best way to get a yes from a client, and even more so than getting a yes, getting cash in the door. Because sending a proposal to people where you've spent all this time crafting a proposal, you send it off to somebody, they disappear with it, and then you don't hear from them for the next 6 weeks, even though you're calling, they literally turn into a ghost, is not a very effective way to build your business. And in fact, as a solo practitioner, which most consultants are when they first start out, all you really have is your energy. Right? It's the energy that you've spent in the past, which is the money, the resources, the team potentially that you've got around you right now. You've got the energy you're going to spend in the future, and that's the same limited time that we all have on this planet, 24 hours for those who weren't sure. And the energy, whether you've got positive energy, whether you've got negative energy, will actually infect the business. If the business if you run out of energy, the business is going to run out of energy. If you get sick, the business gets sick. So spending and wasting time on things that are not going to be effective for you in your business lifestyle can actually be a large roadblock or a large obstacle to actually living a life that you love. So wasting time on inefficient, or not even inefficient, but unintentional coffee conversations, wasting time on chasing people that won't respond to you because you've sent them a proposal and you want to make sure that you get some sort of response back. That's not a great way of doing things. There are so many better ways of actually building those sales systems and better ways of making offers that actually get yeses sometimes and the majority of times without even having to submit a proposal. The ultimate idea is that you are not just not getting sales, you're getting so many sales that you're now auditioning the client. You're actually selecting, is this a person that I want to work with? And so these strategies and these tactics and how we actually put the processes together is one of the large parts that we actually work on inside the Forge Business Program, right? But the select consultant acts a little differently. The select consultant is someone who has selected, this is the sort of client I want to work with. So they're auditioning them. It doesn't feel like an audition for the client. They just feel like they're collaborating towards an outcome, which is a really nice sales process. And they've selected, this is the client I want to work with. They've selected, this is the actual sales process that I'm going to use. This is how I want to engage people. But then during the process of designing the engagement itself, this is how I'm going to work, right? This is when I'm going to work. The select consultant actually can choose to take time out of the middle of their week because they want to put things in their lifestyle. They want to actually be able to go and do their hobbies. They want to go and do their leisure activities. And they don't have to be working the 9 to 5 grind. But what gets in the way of being able to select these things? Well, number one, it's employee mentality. And what I mean by that is, as an employee, you are looking to other people on the team to deliver you things, right? They're going to give you stuff. And often the median employee is the person who has an expectation that things will happen around them. So the opposite is the select consultant, who realizes that things, I'm not expecting for things to happen. I'm going to select things to happen. I will select ideally which activities I want to happen, and I'm going to do the work to make them happen. There's this concept of above and below the line. Above the line, we have ownership, accountability, and we have responsibility. It's a really nice place to be. Every day we have decisions, we have choices that we can make, and we can choose to be above or below the line in that decision making. So we can choose to own the problem, or own the moving forward, or own the proactive next step. We can choose to be accountable. So, if it's to be, it's up to me. I'm going to have to actually do the step that's going to need to be done. Or I can at the very least, be able to respond, so response able, to be able to adjust or adapt based off things that have happened. So that's above the line. Below the line, and this is where the select consultant does not play, is blame, excuses, and denial. So they're blaming the circumstances around them. They're blaming the environment. They're blaming someone else who didn't do a thing that they expected, and that's where the employee mentality comes in, right? They're making excuses. This didn't happen because. Well, it didn't happen because it didn't happen. It means that you didn't do it in an effective way for it to happen, whatever it is. But the great thing is, as a select consultant, as someone who actually can select the things that are happening in their life, you can choose to own that and go, all right, this piece didn't get the result that I wanted it to get. I'm now going to look really carefully at that, and I'm going to make it work. Whether I use external help to make sure that I've got the right advisors around me, I'm going to select the right advisors around me. Is the piece that I'm actually doing right for my target market? Is this something that they're going to be responding to? Is the offer something that's relevant enough? There are so many elements in there that you can actually take on board rather than making the excuse. There are many consultants that I've actually spoken to over the years that have said, I tried a thing and it didn't work. Like the thing was the problem. Now, that could be a tactic, it could be a strategy, whatever it might be. Now, 27 plus years in the sales and marketing game is what I've been doing, and I've worked in over 200 different industries. And I can tell you that almost every sales and marketing tactic that I've seen and used out there does actually work. But it works in a specific situation, and it works with specific markets. So if it didn't work for you, it's much more about the nuance of how you delivered it, how it was applied. So we can't make excuses for how it worked or didn't work. We actually want to take accountability and take ownership to make it work. And denial is the last one, and probably the worst one of all, which is pretending there's not a problem. We can, and this is one that actually comes up quite a bit. I have seen consultants leave large organizations, get some form of payout, and look at the roadmap ahead. And they might have a year of cash flow that they can actually use. They've got this nice war chest of cash that they've got. And 6 months down the track, they'll be like going, well, look, I haven't got any sales. Things haven't really been going my way, but at least I've got 6 months left. And instead of going, well, I've got 6 months left, so I better get moving. I've got to select what I'm going to do next. They go, well, I'm happy just to keep going through this lifestyle. I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm not having to work too hard. I'm going to keep going for another 3 months, and then I might start to get my act into gear. They're in denial that 6 months is even not a long time to actually get a working business. And so being proactive and actually get the working business earlier, and then deciding how you're actually going to design your lifestyle about the things you're doing, is a major key. In fact, one of the things I do notice of people who are moving out of a corporate environment into their own business is they don't have an expectation, or they don't have a realistic expectation of what needs to be done to actually generate new work. What is the timeline that it takes to go from a stranger to an actual approved piece of work that you're being paid for? What is the time that it takes to, well, even to go through a corporate procurement process? Yes, it might take a month to actually get through that part of it, but what about all the steps leading up to the actual yes? Right? There are so many different aspects of that. And so there are people who are living in denial, not actually asking the question, not finding out how long these things would take, and understanding what it takes to build a successful and consistent pipeline for their business. But where does the designing your own life come into this?
I wanted to quickly jump in and remind you about russellpearsonprograms.com. We put all sorts of resources specifically for consultants on that page, and if you go there right now, you'll see that there are some new resources available absolutely free for you to download. So go to russellpearsonprograms.com. Now, back to the show.
So there's a question that I ask. I've asked it on this podcast before. What would you do if you had everything you wanted? It's an interesting question. Think about it, because I've had people say to me, "Well, I would buy a house down the beach." No. That's something you still want. Let's pretend for a second you've got your house down the beach, right? You've got your nice car. You've got all your family around you. What would you do? All right, and usually you hear things along the lines, "Oh, well, I'd probably read a little bit more." Or I'd probably go to the beach and sit and look at the waves. Or I might drink a nice bottle of red, or I might spend time with friends and family and talk a little bit more. Yeah? These small things are what make life amazing. And these tiny little actions can actually be things that you bring into your work week. It's an amazing lifestyle that you actually get to lead as a select consultant, and it's something that I've been very fortunate to be able to evolve into over the last probably 6 years. And part of that is going to, say, the middle of the week, say a Wednesday, and that's something that I often do. And every second Wednesday I go, "All right, well, I'm going to be doing some blacksmithing." That's one of the things that I love. I'm an amateur blacksmith. I love making things. People ask me what I make, and it's usually mistakes, let's be honest. But I do enjoy the process. I've got my own little forge, but I've also part of the association, this blacksmithing association that's not too far away from me. And every Wednesday they have a little of a meet-up, and everyone uses the forges and the anvils and all the rest, and we make some amazing things. So I take every second Wednesday and I actually take that for myself. I select it into my world, and I don't work on that day, which means I make an appointment with the most important person in my business, which is me. Right? As I said before, if I run out of energy, the business runs out of energy. If I get sick, the business gets sick. So I need opportunity in my week to recharge. I need to add that in. I don't need to work really hard so I can take a break. I'm not working hard to get to a point where and some end state where I can suddenly rest. What I'm doing is I'm designing rest in. I'm designing my life into my business, not around my business, actually in my business. If you've never done this before, go out 2 weeks past your diary, because I'm sure that your current diary is very busy, and just select an hour. Select an hour in the middle of the work week, the 9 to 5 work day, and actually create some time for yourself. Define something that you would do if you had everything you wanted. Would you read for a little? Would you go down the beach? Would you go for a hike? Would you go for a drive? Even just driving around is sometimes fun. So what are the things that you would do? Add that into your week, and you'll start finding that now it's not a case of sort of building this business for retirement. You're actually living the life that you want in retirement at the same time as working with cool people, doing cool projects when you want. Now, where is the line, or is there a line between not working hard enough and working hard enough? Well, for anybody who's got very successful, whether it be in business or just about anything, what you've already realized is that usually it's not working harder, and it's working smarter, but it's not just working smarter either. It's being practiced at the smart work that you're doing. So you've been able to get leverage in the smaller activities and you've got good at them, which means you've applied the 80-20 principle. You understand what 20% of your activity gets 80% of the results, and you've selected to take time to practice and do the repetitions to get good. And that's a large part of being the select consultant, is getting good at the little things so that you're hyper leveraged, so that you can just do a handful of things that might only take a few hours in a week, and suddenly those opportunities are there and they're ready to go. One of the other mistakes that I see consultants make is that they fill themselves up with clients, which means they don't allow time to do the little things in the business, the leveraged activities that continue to bring opportunity to their door. And so they dive into someone else's business, they start almost becoming an employee of the business, then they lose a client or they lose 2 clients. Suddenly they lost 20% of their income, maybe 40% of their income, and they start to panic. And because they hadn't been doing the consistent practice and the consistent small leveraged work throughout the process, they don't have the momentum, and they need to start back with the market again and start to build up their name, build up their networks, and actually go through the whole start process. There are so many better ways to do that, and luckily with the programs that we run in the Forge, that we've been able to enable people to bridge that gap so they don't just find themselves falling out of bed, falling out of the nest. So we've got employee mentality, expecting other people to do things for you. If we can move that on, or if we can live above the line rather than below the line, if we can prioritize the things that we want in our life to actually be part of our work life, it changes the game. It changes how we feel about our work. Work it's no longer a distraction. We're not thinking about getting to other things because we just did them. We enjoyed it. We've enjoyed our day. Our day it has some really good productive work, but it also has the things that we enjoy embedded in it. And that's because we put it into our diary. We took the time in the future. We didn't try to make the time, which you can't do unless you're a time wizard. If you're a time wizard, you can make time. But if you're not a time wizard, you need to take time, which means you need to go into your diary and select it and make it for the most important person in the business, which is you. If you lose your best client, you can keep going. If you lose your best client, you can continue to run your business by just getting another client in there, right? If you lose you, then the business stops running. That's why you're the most important person in the business. And a lot of people over the years have got this sort of traditional wisdom of, no, it's got to be client focused. And yes, the mentality and the intention is making sure that you're building and designing this business for the client. But it's for the client you've selected who's going to make your life the amazing consulting life that you actually wanted to build. You didn't start this consultancy to actually make it harder than when you were working for someone else. You started this to actually give you some freedom of action, some freedom of activity, and there are too many people who are waiting on the finite result of getting to some point where they sell the business or move to a retirement phase before they start enjoying it. You are in I think the most privileged industry in the world, the opportunity for you to take your expertise. You've worked very hard to get them. You've got a lot of experience behind you. You've become very valuable for certain clients. And so in understanding that, you now have this great opportunity to start selecting the things that come into your life, having accountability and ownership and responsibility about how you're going to put those in. You're not waiting for things to come to you, which means that you're selecting to practice, you're selecting to improve, you're selecting to get better, you're selecting when you should be leaving a client. Often a consultant will try and hang around with a client for as long as they can, and they become part of the furniture and actually become part of the, almost as an employee, which means they lose their intrinsic value, which is that third-party perspective that they're bringing through to the project. So there will be a point in time when you should select yourself out. In fact, I recommend that most consultants, when they're looking for the engagement, are very much focused on the outcomes they're producing and are looking for the exit. You should be looking for the exit so that, number one, you can actually help that client reach their results as fast as humanly possible. But also, you're not going to get stale sitting in this one role. You might as well just go back and get a job. There's some clients we want to keep around longer than others because they're fantastic and they're growing and they're getting better and they continue to evolve. But if you're just turning the hamster wheel on a client that is having the same problems over and over and over again, then it may be time to consider an exit in that one, because you get to select someone better, select someone new. So the select consultant, it's a great concept, but it's more than a concept. It's actually a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of ownership and accountability and responsibility. But at the same time, it's a selective lifestyle, which means that you get to select what comes into it. If you want to work late hours, you can work late hours because you selected it. If you want to work early hours, you can work early hours because you selected it. You can choose to work 9 to 5. But at the same time, you're not working 9 to 5 for anybody else's paradigm. You're not doing it to make sure that you're fitting in with the client. You're doing it because they're the hours that you want to work. Select consultant. It's a fantastic opportunity. It's probably the antithesis of freedom when it comes to designing a business just like this. I actually wrote a little book. It's just a micro book on this topic. So if you'd actually like to have a look at it, Becoming the Select Consultant, you can actually find it at russellpearsonprograms.com. If you go there now, you'll be able to download it absolutely free, and I'd love you to let me know what you think. Did you find it enlightening? Is it something that you want to actually bring into your practice? What are the obstacles? What are the roadblocks? What do you think are the things that are getting in the way of you becoming the select consultant in your own business? I'd love for you to tell me. I'd love for you to subscribe. I'd love for you to like this video if you liked it. My name is Russell Pearson. I am a select consultant. And until next time, stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye for now.